Nazis walk in, settle in Hungary, and by the way, there's only a small unit of Nazi perpetrators who are the unit that delegated to handle the Jewish situation. Among them, the leader is Adolf Eichmann. Many of you may have heard that name. So, with his expertise of many years of practice in other countries, in 51 days, he and his unit and the extreme cooperation of the Hungarian military and the Hungarian police, they are able to move people from their home through the different channels that I will describe into death. 51 days, 447,000 people. Now, here we are, a small group of people, and it's a lot of people. Visualize that, and it is done to perfection, identically in every city, every village, because they have a blueprint, and the police is following the blueprints to the letter, because I can substantiate that, because years after I was talking with one of my Hungarian friends who came from another part of the country, and somehow the conversation came up about different aspects of the movement. And she described it identically. I said, that's how it was. So anyhow, so what happens here is important. The Nazis are in already. In about a week's time, we are given an order that everybody, even little children, have to have a yellow Star of David sewn very tightly on their clothing. Without that, we are not permitted to go out on the street or anywhere. Okay, this is nothing. Soon after that, or maybe another 10 days, an order comes that all the Jewish people will be congregated in a ghetto. Now, for the children's understanding here. In America, we understand the word ghetto means that an ethnic group decides to live in a location, but they have total freedom, thank God, to go anywhere they want. Well, that's here and that's fine. But in real life, the ghetto is something totally different. So the government decides, I happen to live in a big city, so naturally there are Jewish people living all over the area, but they selected the more Jewishly populated section and they allocated that to become the ghetto. Now the people who lived in the outlying areas were given 1 hour to pack a little overnight bag and line up on the streets to be taken to the ghetto. Now try to think and imagine the mother is home alone already with her family. The father has long been gone because I told you that Hungary was an ally of Germany. So when the Germans were fighting the Russian front in about 1942, the Hungarians went to help them. They took all the Jewish men until the age 45. And the Jewish men were the guinea pigs. They were made to walk on the minefields instead of mine detectors. So I don't have to explain the details on that. Or they would froze to death, or they would be abused. I mean, there were many things. This is all on the Russian front. So back to Hungary, the family is just the mother and whatever amount of children she has, or old people living with her. Now think about children. What would you do? Never again, never. But what could be done if your mother tells you, go to your room, here's a bag, fill it up? Because the mother has no time to deal with everything. Would you put your favorite toy in it? Would you put your candy in it, or junk in it, or whatever? The point here is that all these things has to be done under extreme stress and speed. Now these poor people are lined up on the street, and the Hungarian police had an umbrella group called the gendarme. The gendarmes were the most cruel beings on this earth, because I fully understand that a soldier has to obey his orders. I understand it. But when a soldier obeys the orders 200 times more than what is expected, that's cruelty. So the people are lined up, and by the way, there's no such a luxury as a carpool. So the distance could be 3 miles, 5 miles, whatever, on foot to the designated ghetto area, and these gendarmes are hitting, cursing, pushing, any brutality you could imagine, it's taking place. Now, they reach the ghetto. This group of gendarmes look into a house and make a decision. So, here I come in the picture. I was born in the section where the ghetto was to be designated, so I live in the house with my parents, my brother and I, and an aunt and uncle. 6 people, very comfortable. Had ample space, ample rooms, and so on. Now this gendarme looks in with his group of people and shoves in a load. My home became the residency for 40 people. You can't fathom the crowd, the atmosphere, because these people are already exhausted from the journey, and they have to find a corner to just sit down. Now again, look at from another aspect. All personalities that you find in this 40 are listed in the psychology book. And that's the only way I can make you understand. I mean, there are good people, there are bad people. There are cursing and there are praying. There are quiet. There are young, there are old. There are sick, there are well. Every personality there, it was there. Now, how do you keep these people together, not to kill each other? So anyhow, these people are crowded all over. And I have to tell this to the children, that I was a spoiled brat. I mean, that's the truth. I was the only little girl, and I pretty much had everything that the little girl should have, which meant I had my own room, and I had a lot of stuff in my room. And all of a sudden, these people are all over my stuff. And you can do nothing. This is the time I learned how to share, because there's no other way of doing it. There were girls in the group who were my size, take the clothes, and so on. I mean, you just don't question these things, you just do it. Anyhow, the people had one great advantage over the other units, because my father was in the meat market business, and in those days in Europe, they would smoke the meat for preservation, so it didn't require refrigeration. So our attic was filled with smoked meat. And therefore, we were able to supplement our very meager food. Now, I have to emphasize that once the people were established in the ghetto, no longer exit. They're no longer going to school, business, work, any of the things that you are doing in your daily life has stopped. So now we are, in a sense, imprisoned in our own area. Life here it would take days to describe, but I'm going to tell you 2 things that I kind of improvised myself to explain. And there were the legal robberies and the illegal robberies. Now, the illegal robberies consisted of the Hungarian Nazi Party was comprised of young uneducated hoodlums who really, they were 17, 18, 19 years old, who really, now in my adult mind, I know they didn't know what they were doing. But they were riled up to kill the Jew, to hate the Jew, to rob the Jew, and they did a pretty good job of it. So what happens, once the ghetto is established, these punks come into the ghetto area, they have total freedom to walk in, and they go into a home. Now, I have to tell you that most of these homes were well established for many, many years, so naturally, it would have valuables in it. So they would see a painting or a carpet, something, or a silver candelabra or whatever, pick it up, walk out. Now why am I telling you all this? To make you understand that until this point, the police was protecting me as a citizen of the country, not anymore. They could do whatever they wanted and they looked the other way. Legal robbery. We are in the ghetto for, again, a limited time. Another order comes that we have to turn in all our jewelry, all our cash, our radios, our bicycles, and other valuables. And it was very well documented. This time they give you a piece of paper. Never got anything out of it, but then, anyhow. Now here again, why am I telling you this? To make you understand that the cash they took from us paid the Hungarian railroad worker to ship us to our death. So, life goes on, and now, in another 2 weeks or thereabouts, get a new order that the entire ghetto will be evacuated. And they said, you are going to go to another country, because you have to remember the war has been going on for 5 years already, and it's really there are a lot of shortage and a lot of problems, and nationally, not a Jewish issue. I mean, it's wartime. So they give us this line that you have to, you're going to take you to another country because they need some workers in factories, in farms, etc. Here comes line number 1. The families will stay together. Now think about it. Under these horrendous conditions, when they tell you that the family will stay together, you remain calm, you don't resist, you just follow them like a sheep. And now comes the exodus from your house to the other part of the town, several miles away, into a brickyard. Why in heaven's name into a brickyard? There's absolutely nothing in the brickyard. There are no bathroom facilities, there's no furniture, nothing. There's a mud floor and bricks. This was cleverly organized also, because the brickyard is adjacent to the railroad tracks, and the railroad tracks are the key point here. So on my 17th birthday on June 11th, they shoved us into these cattle cars. Now if you ever look inside a cattle car, it would have the capacity for maybe 25 to 30 people to sit on the floor. They managed to crowd in as many as 80 to 85 people, depending on the size of the community. And you see, it would not be feasible for them to send one boxcar on its journey. So they would couple together as many as 50, 55 of these trains, and this was called the transport. They slammed the door on us. It's pitch dark inside the boxcar, and it's wood, so there's like little holes between the sleds, and there's a tiny little window. Even that has a barbed wire across it. We are crowded together as close as you can possibly imagine. You could shift 1 inch this way and 1 inch that way. In order to allow my parents to sit on the wooden floor, I stood for 3 solid days, shifting for 1 inch this way, 1 inch that way. Again, the conditions within this environment is a degree of shock, a degree of pain.
Sorry.
I didn't even move. Come back a bit. Okay. Did I do anything? Magic touch. Magic touch.